Hello there, my name is Thomas O'Regan. I'm a professional property investor here in Australia over the last 4 years now. Over the last 4 years, me and my wife have 20x'd our properties portfolio equity position, and it is always growing. Okay, so basically, I have no hate on any other buyer's agents, but I just wanted to point out something about so-called investors and or buyers agents and the lens that they are or are not using when choosing to invest in Australia. I mean, in Australia, it's actually, especially in property, it's a very safe place to invest. Like, we haven't really had any sort of housing crisis nationally. I mean, like, all at the same time. People think that we were affected by the GFC here in Australia, but obviously compared to the US, it was extremely mild. But that doesn't mean, just because nothing super dramatic in the house market on a national scale has happened before, that doesn't mean it can never happen. It doesn't mean there can be a huge crash in Australia. Now, because of the fact there hasn't been a huge crash, people build their property portfolios like the property prices are always going to go up. And I'm not saying they're not always going to go up. I'm just saying, if you're being a savvy investor, if you're being risk adverse investor, you should have that somewhere in your strategy. That what happens if, this property goes down in value? What if the capital growth doesn't keep going on and on and on? And I can tell you, because I've owned properties that I've bought for the sole purpose of them going up in value, and properties going up in value that you buy for the sole purpose of them going up in value, generally you're buying those properties negative cash flow. Now, if you're buying properties negative cash flow and all of a sudden the market just shits itself like an Australian version of the GFC that just never happened before, you will be in a world, like, let's just say you'll be in a world of pain. There's like, I can't imagine anything worse than having negative equity on a property that you also have to pay tens of thousands of dollars a year to hold. I just can't imagine how bad that would feel. Okay? And these cycles, sometimes these cycles go for periods of 5, 10, 20 years. So imagine if you bought a property, for example, for $500,000 and it went to $250,000, and maybe you had some faith for the first 2 years. Then after 2 years, still no growth. Your property's worth 250. You've got a loan for 400, for example. You were just holding on to something, and keep note that the property is negative cash flow the whole time, $10,000 per property, and feel like that would be very painful. Okay, what do I do to protect myself from that? Look, obviously I buy for capital growth as well, but I also purchase properties that, in my opinion, keep me in a position where I'm financially free. Okay, so what does that mean? That means I'm purchasing properties that not only have potential for capital growth, but they also are cash flow positive, cash flow neutral at least. What that means is the rental income that is coming in from these properties supports the entire holding costs of the properties. And therefore, if the property dips, if the property comes back to, it doesn't matter, like if the property drops by 50%, 100%, it really doesn't bother me too much, because at the end of the day, it's costing no money out of my pocket. Okay? So hopefully in Australia, there is no such thing as a huge market correction. And I don't see it happening, but I hope for everyone's sake that is not investing, as if there would be, that it doesn't happen. See you guys next time. Bye.